So the television station or the media entity that she works for, Phoenix TV, it's actually been long in the making. It's actually began, it was a Rupert Murdoch thing way back long ago, back in 1992. And so I have this up at danalash.com. Free Beacon also, they had a piece where they got into how Phoenix TV was identified by U.S. intelligence agencies as a major overseas outlet used to spread propaganda and promote the policies of the communist government in Beijing. So this station, Phoenix TV, it is essentially, it's not fair. The only thing that Hassan maybe went a little bit over on is it's not a total subsidiary of the Chinese state bank. It's owned by a guy named Louis Changle, who is a former quote unquote reporter for China's state-run media, and he's a member of the Communist Party. And he became very, very wealthy because of his ties to Beijing. Phoenix TV was the only quote unquote private TV network that China allowed to broadcast news in Chinese, according to a couple of this was Washington Post, a privilege that reflects the warm relationship Louis has cultivated with party leaders. And they get into, and this was an old story, by the way, this is like 20 years old. So after Tiananmen Square and when the communist quote unquote president at the time had passed, that was who Changle was very close with. There's two factions within the Communist Party in China, and you have that guy's faction after the death of Zhao Ziyang, and then you have the Xi Jinping faction. And so Changle finds himself sort of out of favor at the moment because he's with the less powerful faction within the Communist Party in China. And I say that because the defense that you will see of Phoenix TV is that, oh no, Xi Jinping has come down on Phoenix TV. Xi Jinping has come down and they've been thrice suspended, but they're back up in China and other parts of Chinese controlled areas, because they were actually championing the competing faction to Xi Jinping, so to speak. So it's like petty partisan inter-communist party politics is what's happening. He's a member of the Communist Party. He is a huge supporter of communism. This guy, he had given this interview. This was the Washington Post. I'm going to get the date on this piece for you. This was I have one piece that I was reading from WAPO that got into Phoenix TV that was like from the 90s. This one was from 2005 where they do this interview with him. And he discusses how he wants to hopefully use Phoenix TV as a way to encourage China to move towards a more Western style democracy. However, if this reporter that you heard, she didn't give a question. She's like, China gave you all this stuff. So my question is, are you working with China? Well, that's not a question. I mean, you answered it. It was, you just wanted to make a statement about and blow up China and blow smoke up. That's all you wanted to do. And if her behavior is anything to judge by, no, he's not interested in doing that. That's just a front. That is just completely and totally a front. He presents himself as this, like the guy who owns this network, as this unfortunate soul that's wedged between the economic reforms that China began slowly adopting to benefit the Communist Party of China and the non-existent freedoms that still don't exist because it's a communist country. So the whole point is that he dropped from favor in recent years because he picked the wrong side. So Trump was right to grill this reporter. So you can say that it's privately owned because that's technically factual. However, you cannot say that it is not a mouthpiece of Beijing. It is widely regarded all throughout China as a mouthpiece of Beijing, which is why this was the only media entity after Zhao Ziyang had died. After he died, this was the only media entity that was actually allowed. They even they took pictures inside the room where he was apparently being treated, and they had broadcast the news that he had passed. That was a privilege given to that only other than the state media. That was the only other entity that had been given the privilege of reporting that because Changle was such an upstanding communist and still is. Do you think that a private entity based in Hong Kong would be able to broadcast its programming in China if they were not strict communists? The answer is no. So the idea that it is a private, that's just all BS. He owns it, but he's a CPC member. He's a CPC hardliner. So to say that, well, it's a private company that's in Hong Kong, that's where it's basically sheltered in. The guy's a hardcore communist. So that dog don't hunt. That's not how that works. And China's working so hard to spread its communist propaganda everywhere. I wanted to add this too, because Hassan found this on Quartz. Peter Hassan over at Daily Caller. And this was what, I'm going to open this so I can give you the date on this piece. This is Quartz.com. This was August of 2016. In February, 4 of 5, and sidebar, Phoenix TV hates the Hong Kong protesters. So that's, this piece says, in February, 4 of 5 of Hong Kong's disappeared booksellers, who some believe were kidnapped by Chinese agents, appeared on Phoenix TV to confess to selling banned books in mainland China. One of them, Lam Wing Ki, had later said upon his return to Hong Kong from the mainland that he was forced to make the confession. In March, another bookseller, Li Bo, gave an interview to the paper, Phoenix TV, and pro-Beijing Hong Kong news outlet Singtao Daily to denounce claims that he was abducted by mainland officials in Hong Kong. And previously, Singtao had ran several exclusive reports on Li's disappearance. So it is a puppet of Beijing. It is classified by our intel agencies as such, and they have very, very close ties to China's Communist Intelligence Service and their military. So, and here's this also from the Free Beacon. The Phoenix TV was established under Chinese leader Jiang Zemin, who came up after the leader who passed right after Tiananmen Square. This was in the early 90s. It was developed specifically as a government and intelligence tool for overseas influence operations. All Phoenix personnel are required to undergo some MSS intelligence training. They're very close to MSS, their intel service, and Chinese military intelligence. And Sarah Cook, a Chinese expert at Freedom House, said in congressional testimony that Phoenix TV is the second most widely viewed Chinese language cable channel in the United States, and a prime example of Chinese propaganda outlets that are not directly owned by the Beijing government, because then they give themselves plausible deniability there.